Have you ever noticed something that should seem impossible? Every commercial airplane carries hundreds of people more than 10 kilometers above the ground, yet there are no parachutes under the seats. We have life jackets for water landings, oxygen masks for emergencies, and even inflatable slides. So why is the one thing that seems most useful during a disaster completely missing from every passenger flight? So let's discover why airplanes don't have parachutes. With Origin Files Hub. Most people believe the answer is simple. They assume airlines don't want to spend extra money. Others think passengers are never meant to survive a plane crash anyway. But neither idea is true. In fact, engineers and aviation experts have studied this question for decades. The surprising truth is that giving every passenger a parachute could actually make flying far more dangerous instead of safer. To understand why, we have to go back to the early days of aviation. When airplanes first appeared in the early 1900s, they looked nothing like today's giant passenger jets. They flew slowly, stayed close to the ground, and usually carried only one or two people. At first, pilots didn't even have parachutes. Many believed they would only encourage pilots to abandon damaged aircraft instead of trying to land them safely. That thinking changed during World War I. As airplanes became faster and air combat became more dangerous, military pilots desperately needed a way to escape. Early parachutes were large, heavy, and not always reliable, but they saved many lives. Over time, parachute technology improved, and by World War II, they became standard equipment for military crews. But something interesting happened as passenger aviation grew. Commercial airlines moved in a completely different direction. Instead of designing airplanes so people could jump out, engineers focused on making aircraft so reliable that passengers would almost never need to. However, this wasn't the biggest surprise. Even if every passenger had a modern parachute today, using one on a normal airliner would be nearly impossible. Imagine opening the cabin door while flying at cruising altitude. Most passenger aircraft fly around 35,000 feet, where the air is extremely thin and temperatures can fall below -50 degrees Celsius. There isn't enough oxygen to breathe normally, and a person exposed to that environment could lose consciousness within seconds without special equipment. Things become even stranger. The airplane is also traveling at around 900 kilometers per hour. That's faster than the strongest hurricane on Earth. If someone somehow managed to jump into that powerful airflow, the force could slam them against the aircraft before they even had a chance to fall away safely. Skydivers never jump anywhere close to those speeds because ordinary parachutes are simply not designed for it. But let's imagine another situation. What if the airplane flew lower and slower before everyone jumped? That sounds reasonable, until you remember how commercial flights actually work. A large passenger jet can carry more than 300 people. Even experienced military paratroopers need careful planning to exit an aircraft safely. Trying to guide hundreds of frightened passengers, many with no training at all, would create complete chaos. People would need to wear parachutes correctly, secure every strap, understand how to jump safely, know when to pull the parachute, and avoid colliding with each other in the sky. Even landing safely requires training. A parachute isn't like an umbrella that opens and does the rest. Without practice, people can land badly and suffer serious injuries even after a perfect jump. But almost nobody knows what happened next. As airplanes became larger, aviation engineers studied accidents in great detail. They discovered that the vast majority of serious emergencies happen during takeoff or landing. These parts of the flight last only a few minutes and take place at low altitude. Ironically, that's exactly when parachutes are least useful because there simply isn't enough time or height for them to open fully before reaching the ground. There was one hidden reason that changed everything. Modern airplanes are built with multiple backup systems. They have several computers, duplicate flight controls, multiple navigation systems, backup electrical power, and engines designed to continue flying safely, even if one fails. Pilots also train repeatedly in advanced simulators for emergencies that most of them will never experience in real life. Instead of preparing passengers to abandon the aircraft, the entire aviation industry is designed around keeping everyone safely inside it. A real example shows just how effective this idea can be. In 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 lost both engines after striking a flock of birds shortly after takeoff from New York. Rather than asking passengers to jump, Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger safely landed the aircraft on the Hudson River. Every person on board survived. The life jackets and evacuation slides became useful, but parachutes would have made no difference in that emergency. Scientists and safety experts continue studying every accident, searching for new ways to improve aviation. Surprisingly, no major aviation authority has concluded that carrying parachutes for every passenger would improve overall safety. The extra weight would reduce fuel efficiency, the equipment would require constant inspection, and every traveler would need extensive training before every flight. Even then, the risks of jumping would usually be greater than staying inside the airplane. Today, some specialized aircraft still carry parachutes. Military crews use them when their missions require it. Small private airplanes sometimes have emergency parachute systems that lower the entire aircraft instead of the people inside. But for large passenger jets, the safest place during almost every emergency remains exactly where you already are, buckled into your seat. So the next time you board an airplane and notice there isn't a parachute waiting beneath your seat, you'll know something most people never realize. It isn't missing because aviation forgot about safety. It's missing because, after more than a century of engineering and experience, the safest escape from an airliner is almost always never having to leave it at all. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Origin Files Hub for more fascinating stories behind the ordinary things we see every day. And let us know in the comments, what topic should we explore next?